Pressure comes like a storm, loud, uninvited, and overwhelming. For many women, the demands of society, relationships, and expectations pile up until silence feels impossible. Yet, there is a deeper kind of strength that does not rise with noise but with stillness. To remain calm in the face of pressure is not weakness, it is an act of defiance. It is Medusa's lesson for the modern woman, to meet chaos with a gaze so steady it cannot be shaken. Think of the world's constant demands, the need to respond instantly, to perform without error, to carry burdens that are rarely acknowledged. Anxiety thrives in this arena, whispering that urgency is survival, but urgency is often a trap. To pause, to remain unmoved, to reflect before reacting, this is to reclaim sovereignty over your own mind. Calm is not passivity. It is a weapon sharper than impulse. Medusa, often reduced to a monster in myths, becomes here a symbol of radical composure. Surrounded by serpent symbols of instincts and raw emotions, she does not fight them, she wears them. Her calm gaze petrifies not by aggression but by mastery. For women today, that mastery is the ability to remain centered when everything outside demands collapse. The Stoics taught that no external force can touch the mind unless we grant it entry. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Medusa embodies this lesson with timeless clarity. Her stillness is not fear, it is dominion. To be like Medusa is to choose calm when provoked, to hold composure under scrutiny, to breathe when others shout. It is to understand that calm is not surrender, it is control. In the storm of pressure, she teaches us to become the eye of the hurricane, unshakable, steady, and free. Welcome to this journey of self-mastery. If you are here, it is because you feel the weight of pressure expectations from others, deadlines, obligations, the silent demands that follow you through every room you enter. You are not alone. Modern women live under relentless pressure, and often the world confuses stillness with weakness. But here, we reclaim calm as strength. This is not about pretending that difficulties do not exist, it is about learning to stand firm in the middle of them. Medusa will be our guide. Not the distorted image of a monster, but the archetype of a woman who embodies composure under fire. Her snakes symbolize the emotions, impulses, and fears we all carry. She does not destroy them, she integrates them. The lesson is clear. True calm is not the absence of inner chaos, but the mastery of it. This is where Stoic philosophy meets contemporary psychology, reminding us that peace of mind is not given, it is chosen. In this series, you will learn how to remain unshakable when pressure rises, how to breathe when others expect panic, and how to transform silence into authority. Each step will give you tools rooted in timeless wisdom and grounded in real psychological practice. Calm is not detachment, it is power. Calm is not surrender, it is victory over the self. Before we begin, I invite you to take part actively. Subscribe if this resonates with you. Like this video if you believe more women need to hear this message. And share in the comments. From which country and city are you watching? Your presence here matters. Together, we will build a space where calm is celebrated, not doubted. A space where pressure no longer dictates who you are. Pressure is rarely a single, sharp moment. It is a build-up, a layering of demands that accumulates until you can no longer hear your own thoughts. For women, this pressure often comes from every direction. To succeed professionally without fault, to appear composed and attractive without effort, to be both nurturing and strong, to respond quickly in a world that glorifies speed but rarely honors reflection. The psychological effect is a constant state of vigilance, as if every mistake or hesitation will expose weakness. Yet, the truth is that calm in these moments is not the absence of feeling, but the assertion of authority over reaction. Here lies the first lesson of Medusa: not to flee from pressure, nor to explode against it, but to stand so still that the storm reveals its own limits. Pressure activates the nervous system, flooding the body with adrenaline and cortisol, preparing for fight or flight. Modern women often feel trapped in this loop, unable to escape or attack, yet constantly burning energy in silent resistance. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Epictetus taught that we do not control the world, only our judgments of it. When you accept that external chaos is inevitable, the body and mind begin to loosen their grip on urgency. Calm is the conscious interruption of this cycle. It is telling your body, we are not in danger, we are in choice. For women who carry invisible burdens, reclaiming this awareness is a radical act of survival. Medusa's snakes illustrate this perfectly. Each serpent writhes with its own impulse: fear, anger, shame, desire. To fight them individually would be exhausting, just as fighting every external pressure is impossible. Yet Medusa does not cut them off. She accepts their presence, integrates them, and wears them openly. This is what modern psychology calls emotional regulation. Not suppression, not denial, but naming emotions, allowing them space, and refusing to be devoured by them. Women who practice this begin to notice a shift. The pressure remains, but their relationship to it changes. Calm emerges not because the world is lighter, but because the mind is steadier. One of the greatest traps of pressure is urgency. Society whispers that if you do not act immediately, you will fall behind. This is particularly sharp in the digital age, where every message demands an instant reply and every performance feels measured against an invisible clock. Yet the Stoics remind us, haste is often the enemy of wisdom. Medusa's gaze was not frantic, it was deliberate. To remain unshaken under pressure requires the courage to pause, to refuse false urgency, and to give yourself the time to respond rather than react. This pause is not laziness, it is sovereignty. It says, I decide the rhythm of my mind, not the noise outside. From a psychological perspective, this pause activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and reflection, rather than leaving control to the amygdala, the seat of raw fear and impulse. For women living under constant stress, the amygdala can dominate, producing anxiety and hypervigilance. But every intentional breath, every chosen silence, strengthens the brain's ability to resist panic. Calm, then, is a practice of rewiring the nervous system. Each time you pause, you teach your body that pressure does not define you. Each time you hold still, you remind your mind that urgency is not truth. Consider the way criticism intensifies pressure. Women are often judged more harshly, with mistakes magnified and successes diminished. This can create a constant tension, the need to prove, to defend, to explain. But Medusa shows another path. When Perseus faced her, her gaze required no explanation, no argument. It was enough to be seen. Similarly, calm under criticism is a kind of silent authority. The Stoic practice here is to separate what belongs to you from what belongs to others. Their judgment is theirs. Your response is yours. When you do not internalize every critique, you stop carrying the weight of expectations that were never yours to bear. There is also the social pressure of comparison, the sense that others are moving faster, achieving more, living without struggle. Social media amplifies this illusion, creating a culture where calm feels like failure, as if to pause is to fall behind. But Medusa disrupts this narrative. She is not rushing, not competing, not begging for validation. Her strength is internal, and it petrifies precisely because it is unshaken by external measures. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Calm under comparison is the refusal to estimate yourself by borrowed standards. Another layer of pressure comes from relationships. Family, partners, colleagues expect immediate availability, emotional labor, and unending resilience. To set boundaries here is one of the most difficult acts of calm. Women are taught that to say no is to be cold, that to pause is to be selfish. Yet, calm is not about pleasing others, it is about remaining whole. Medusa, in her solitude, embodies this principle. She does not run after acceptance. She commands respect by existing on her own terms. The psychological practice here is assertiveness, communicating needs clearly, without aggression but with firmness. Every no spoken calmly is a yes to your own well-being. Calm in the face of pressure is not a trait you either have or lack, it is a discipline. Like any muscle, it strengthens with use. Daily reflection, journaling, deliberate breathing, and practicing silence are ways to rehearse calm before pressure strikes. The Stoics recommended morning meditations to prepare the mind for adversity, and evening reviews to reflect without judgment. For women today, this can mean beginning the day by naming what is within your control and ending it by releasing what was never yours. In this rhythm, calm is not an occasional accident but a chosen habit. Finally, to embody unshakable calm is to resist the narrative that pressure defines your worth. Medusa, feared and misunderstood, reminds us that composure often threatens those who rely on your compliance. Calm disrupts power dynamics because it cannot be manipulated. In the workplace, in relationships, in society, a woman who remains steady under pressure communicates, "I am not owned by your urgency. I belong to myself." This is the ultimate lesson of Medusa and the Stoics, that the world may roar, but your inner fortress is unbreakable. Calm is not hiding from the storm. It is becoming the stillness that makes the storm irrelevant. Calm is often misunderstood as indifference, yet nothing could be further from the truth. Indifference ignores, calm confronts. Indifference avoids, calm chooses. In the face of pressure, indifference disconnects while calm remains fully present. For women, the ability to remain present without being consumed is revolutionary. Modern culture often rewards reaction, quick replies, immediate opinions, instant displays of competence, but calm breaks this cycle. It does not rush to fill silence, it does not bend under urgency. Medusa teaches that true strength is not displayed in frantic movement, but in the ability to hold one's ground when provoked. This distinction matters because calm is not passive resignation, it is active governance of the self. When we look at the psychology of anxiety, we see that much of its power lies in anticipation. Pressure often overwhelms not because of what has already happened, but because of what we imagine could happen. The brain rehearses disasters, exaggerates outcomes, and convinces us that survival requires speed. Here the Stoics offer a remedy, the discipline of perception. Epictetus urged his students to examine whether their fears belong to the present moment or to their imagination. Most often, pressure is magnified by the stories we tell ourselves. Medusa's stillness becomes a symbol of breaking this loop. Her gaze does not wander into imagined catastrophes, it fixes on what is real, here and now. To practice calm in this sense is to bring the mind back to the present, refusing to be enslaved by shadows of the future. Women, in particular, are socialized to anticipate others' needs, to think ahead, to constantly prepare for criticism or rejection. This anticipation creates a double pressure, the weight of today plus the fear of tomorrow. Calm disrupts this by refusing to live in borrowed time. To be like Medusa is to recognize that the only true demand on you is the one occurring in this moment. Anxiety will always try to pull you forward. Calm insists that you stand in the present. From a psychological perspective, mindfulness practices such as naming what you see, Feel and hear are simple but powerful tools. They re-anchor the body in the now, training the nervous system to trust reality rather than fantasy. Calm also has a social dimension. Pressure is not only internal. It comes from the gaze of others. Women are constantly evaluated, compared, and measured against impossible standards. The gaze of society often seeks to diminish, but Medusa reclaims the gaze as her weapon. Instead of crumbling under scrutiny, she returns it. To be calm under the gaze of others is to refuse to be defined by their perception. The Stoics remind us that opinions are not facts and judgments are not truths. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." The calm woman internalizes this. She meets the gaze of others with steadiness, knowing their judgments say more about them than about her. Yet this calm does not mean withdrawing from life. On the contrary, it allows fuller participation. A woman who reacts impulsively under pressure is often dismissed as emotional or unstable, no matter how justified her feelings. But a woman who remains calm commands respect even if others resent it. This is not to suppress emotion, but to direct it with purpose. Medusa's calm is not emotionless. It is charged with power. Her serpents are alive, yet they do not dominate her. Similarly, calm under pressure does not deny emotion, it channels it into clarity. Modern psychology supports this. Emotional regulation increases resilience, improves decision-making, and protects mental health. Calm is not the absence of emotion, but the leadership of it. Boundaries are another essential aspect of calm. Pressure often intensifies when women are expected to carry responsibilities that do not belong to them. Without boundaries, every demand becomes urgent, every request becomes unavoidable. Calm requires the courage to say no without guilt. Medusa, isolated yet sovereign, models this kind of self-possession. She does not chase acceptance, nor does she collapse under rejection. Boundaries are not walls, they are choices. They protect the calm within by controlling what enters. Each time a woman says no to what drains her, she says yes to her own steadiness. Calm cannot survive in a life without boundaries. One of the most powerful aspects of calm is that it disrupts cycles of manipulation. Many forms of pressure are designed to provoke reaction. Criticism, provocation, even praise can be used to control behavior, but calm breaks this cycle. A woman who refuses to react immediately cannot be manipulated. She creates space to think, to observe, to choose. Medusa's petrifying gaze can be read in this way, not as violence, but as the power to immobilize manipulation. Calm paralyzes the tactics of those who seek control because they depend on urgency and reaction. This is why calm is feared. It cannot be coerced. Still, calm is not easy. It requires practice, and practice requires failure. There will be moments when pressure overwhelms, when emotions spill over, when composure shatters. Yet even here, calm teaches a lesson. Recovery is part of mastery. The Stoics themselves acknowledged their imperfections. Seneca admitted that philosophy did not make him flawless, only less troubled by flaws. For women, this is crucial. Calm is not perfection. It is persistence. Each return to calm, after a storm of reaction, strengthens resilience. Like Medusa wearing her serpents, you do not need to eliminate your emotions. You only need to hold them without fear. Daily practices can help cultivate this discipline. Morning journaling to set intentions, deliberate pauses before responding to messages, mindful breathing in moments of stress, these are small acts with profound effects. Each practice is like training the mind to wear its serpents more easily. Calm grows not from dramatic gestures but from consistent, quiet choices. Over time, pressure begins to lose its power. Situations that once triggered panic become manageable because the body and mind have rehearsed steadiness. Calm, then, is not a gift but a craft built daily with intention. In the end, to be unshakable in the face of pressure is to recognize that pressure is inevitable, but your collapse is not. Medusa's strength lies in her refusal to yield her gaze, even when faced with fear and hatred. She remains whole, sovereign, unbroken. For women today, this lesson is more urgent than ever. Pressure will not disappear, but calm transforms it. Calm says, I see the storm, but I am not the storm. I feel the pressure, but I am not defined by it. This is the essence of Medusa's unshakable calm, and it is a power every woman can claim. Calm under pressure is not simply a personal virtue. It is a social disruption. The world is accustomed to women absorbing stress silently, apologizing for boundaries, and justifying every pause. When a woman chooses calm instead of compliance, she unsettles the expectations around her. This unsettling is necessary. Medusa was feared not because she was violent, but because she refused to be conquered. Her stillness was seen as dangerous because it revealed a power that could not be tamed. For modern women, calm becomes a declaration. I will not perform urgency for your comfort. I will not abandon myself for your approval. Calm here is rebellion cloaked in composure. The Stoics understood that freedom begins with inner command. A person enslaved to reaction is easily manipulated, but a person rooted in calm is untouchable. Pressure from others often aims to provoke, whether through deadlines, criticism, or emotional appeals. When you remain steady, you deny others the control they seek. This is why calm, though silent, is so loud in its impact. It communicates without words that your mind belongs only to you. Women who embody this Stoic principle begin to experience a shift. Instead of shrinking under pressure, they expand into it, transforming it into evidence of their resilience. Calm under pressure becomes not only survival, but authority. At a psychological level, calm dismantles the pattern of emotional exhaustion. Constant reaction drains energy, leaving women depleted, resentful, and disconnected from themselves. Calm interrupts this cycle by conserving energy. Instead of scattering attention in every direction, calm gathers it inward, focusing on what truly matters. Medusa, surrounded by her serpents, illustrates this conservation. She does not waste herself fighting each one. She contains them, directs them, integrates them. In the same way, women can practice conserving energy by choosing where to engage and where to remain still. Calm becomes a strategy for survival in environments that demand endless giving without replenishment. But calm is not isolation. It is not retreating permanently from life's demands. True calm coexists with responsibility, with ambition, with connection. The key lies in discernment. Pressure often disguises itself as obligation, making every request seem urgent. Calm unmasks this illusion. It allows women to see clearly which responsibilities are essential and which are imposed. In this clarity, priorities sharpen. You begin to act not from pressure, but from principle. This shift aligns with the Stoic practice of living according to nature, choosing actions that align with your values rather than being enslaved by external noise. Calm reveals that not everything deserves your energy, and this realization is liberation. Another dimension of calm under pressure is the transformation of silence. Many women have been silenced in history, their voices dismissed or punished. Silence, therefore, can feel like submission. But Medusa redefines silence. Her power requires no words. Her calm gaze communicates authority without speech. For modern women, this means learning to use silence not as erasure but as presence. A calm silence during conflict can speak louder than defensive explanations. A steady pause in a meeting can shift the weight of power. Psychologically, This requires comfort with discomfort, resisting the impulse to fill space with apologies or justifications. Calm silence transforms absence into influence. Calm also reshapes identity. Under pressure, many women internalize the narrative of fragility that their emotions make them less capable. Yet calm reveals another story. Emotions are not weakness, but raw material for strength. Medusa's serpents are not hidden, they are visible, undeniable. Her calm lies not in suppressing them, but in holding them with authority. Women who practice this begin to see themselves differently. Instead of labeling emotions as liabilities, they view them as signals, sources of information to guide action. Calm is the framework that holds these emotions without collapse. Identity shifts from fragile to formidable, from reactive to resilient. The cultural fear of female calm must also be acknowledged. A calm woman under pressure challenges expectations of compliance. In workplaces, relationships, and families, she may be accused of coldness, arrogance, or detachment. This mirrors the myth of Medusa, feared not for wrongdoing, but for refusing subjugation. Calm here is misinterpreted because it threatens control. The Stoic perspective offers clarity. What others call arrogance may simply be self-possession. What others call coldness may be composure. Women must learn to differentiate between feedback that reveals truth and feedback that reveals others' discomfort with their strength. Calm is not about pleasing, it is about integrity. At its core, calm under pressure is about autonomy. Pressure often arises when others attempt to dictate your pace, your worth, your priorities. By choosing calm, you reclaim authorship of your life. This does not mean rejecting all demands, but deciding deliberately how to meet them. Medusa's myth reminds us that sovereignty is unsettling to those invested in control. Yet sovereignty is the only path to true freedom. Psychology confirms this. Autonomy is a central human need, and when it is denied, anxiety and depression flourish. Calm is a declaration of autonomy. It says, I decide what defines me. I choose how I respond. Practical exercises anchor this autonomy. One is the deliberate practice of slowing responses. In a pressured moment, an urgent email, a sharp critique, commit to waiting before replying. This pause creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing choice to enter. Another practice is the daily review. At night, reflect on moments of pressure and examine how you responded. Celebrate the times you chose calm. Learn from the times you did not. Each reflection builds awareness, and awareness strengthens mastery. Over time, calm becomes less of a forced effort and more of a natural posture. Ultimately, calm under pressure transforms both self and society. For the individual woman, it provides stability, resilience, and authority. For society, it disrupts patterns of control that depend on female compliance. Medusa stands as an emblem of this transformation. Her calm, misunderstood as monstrosity, was in fact sovereignty. To be like Medusa is to embrace the serpents, to hold composure under scrutiny, and to remain unshakable in the storm. Calm is not the end of pressure, but it is the end of being defined by it. In this lies a new kind of freedom, fierce and quiet, unmovable and unbreakable. Calm in the face of pressure is not an escape from conflict, but a new way of entering it. Too often, women are told they must fight loudly to prove their strength, or else remain silent and submissive. Both extremes are traps. One drains energy and endless struggle, the other erases agency. Calm offers a third path: engagement without collapse, firmness without fury. Medusa's calm was not passive withdrawal, nor was it explosive resistance. It was presence, complete and undeniable. To be like Medusa is to face pressure with the confidence that you do not need to match the chaos of others to remain powerful. The Stoics placed great emphasis on the concept of ataraxia, a state of untroubled calm. But they did not mean detachment from life, they meant clarity in the middle of it. Calm is not about avoiding conflict, but about approaching it with discernment. For women, this distinction matters. Society often mislabels calm women as detached or aloof, but true calm is deeply engaged. It simply refuses to be consumed. Medusa's serpents symbolize this engagement. Emotions are present, alive, even dangerous, but they are mastered. Similarly, calm allows women to enter pressure-filled environments fully aware of emotions without surrendering to them. This clarity turns conflict into choice, not compulsion. In practical terms, this means developing the ability to pause before responding. Pressure often provokes immediate defense. A sharp reply to criticism, a rushed decision under deadlines, a reflex to prove oneself. Yet the pause is where authority lives. The brain under pressure defaults to old patterns, fight, flight, or freeze. But when a woman pauses, she interrupts these patterns and inserts intention. This act, repeated consistently, rewires neural pathways. What was once automatic panic becomes deliberate presence. Calm is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of the pause between stimulus and response. This mastery extends to language. Under pressure, many women over-explain, defend excessively, or soften their tone to avoid judgment. Calm redefines speech. It shortens sentences, slows delivery, and uses silence as punctuation. Medusa's power was not in endless words, but in a gaze that spoke volumes. Similarly, women can learn to speak less but with greater impact. Psychologically, this communicates confidence and reduces the likelihood of being manipulated through guilt or urgency. Calm speech is not about coldness but about clarity. It tells the world, I am present, I am firm, and I will not be rushed into words I do not mean. Calm also has a physical presence. Pressure reveals itself not only in words but in posture, breathing, and facial expression. Many women are conditioned to shrink physically under scrutiny, crossing arms, lowering gaze, quickening speech. Medusa's myth offers a different image. She does not shrink, she stands. Her serpents rise, her gaze is steady. To practice calm physically is to inhabit the body differently. Shoulders back, breath steady, gaze unbroken. These are not superficial gestures but signals to the nervous system that you are safe. Psychology confirms that posture influences emotion. The body can lead the mind toward calm as much as the reverse. Boundaries become visible in this embodied calm. Pressure often comes from blurred limits when others assume constant access to your time, energy, or attention. Calm is the quiet drawing of lines. It does not scream or demand. It states, this is what I can give. This is what I cannot. Medusa's solitude, often portrayed as exile, can also be read as the ultimate boundary. She chooses her space, her terms, her limits. For women today, boundaries are not selfishness but self-preservation. Calm boundaries communicate self-respect without aggression. They are shields that do not need to be explained to those who respect them. A critical element of calm under pressure is learning to tolerate discomfort. Many pressures escalate because we cannot sit with unease. We rush to fix, to respond, to smooth over tension. Calm resists this compulsion. It teaches that discomfort is survivable. Medusa's image, terrifying to others, was something she herself endured daily. She carried her serpents without collapsing. Women who learn to carry discomfort without immediate reaction reclaim enormous power. They discover that not every silence must be filled, not every tension must be resolved instantly. Calm expands tolerance for imperfection, and in this expansion, pressure loses its urgency. From a Stoic perspective, this tolerance is tied to the discipline of desire. Much pressure comes from the desire to control outcomes, to secure approval, to guarantee success. Yet the Stoics remind us that desire for what is outside our control breeds suffering. Calm under pressure requires loosening the grip on control. You cannot dictate how others perceive you, how quickly others move, or whether every task succeeds. But you can dictate your presence in the midst of it. Medusa's myth symbolizes this surrender of control. She does not chase others' recognition, her very existence is her power. Calm grows when desire narrows to what you can truly govern, your own response. Daily practices anchor this principle. One is deliberate exposure to small discomforts, waiting in silence during conversation, delaying a text reply, resisting the urge to defend against minor criticism. These small acts strengthen resilience against greater pressures. Another is reflective journaling. At day's end, write down each pressure you faced and note what was within your control and what was not. This cultivates the Stoic mindset that calm requires. Over time, the mind learns that pressure cannot strip you of what truly matters, your reason, your presence, your integrity. Calm becomes less fragile, more habitual, until it feels less like effort and more like nature. Ultimately, calm under pressure is not about appearing unaffected, but about remaining authentic. Medusa, misrepresented for centuries as a monster, is in truth an image of radical authenticity. She does not hide her serpents, nor does she apologize for them. She remains herself under scrutiny, under fear, under myth. For women today, authenticity under pressure is the ultimate calm. It means refusing to contort yourself for acceptance, refusing to abandon your values for approval. The world may call this monstrous, just as it did with Medusa. But in truth, it is freedom. To be calm in the storm is to declare, I am whole, I am steady, I am unshakable. And that is the most powerful gaze of all. Pressure is not only external, it also comes from within. Many women carry an inner Medusa, not the powerful protector, but the one who has been exiled, shamed, silenced. This internalized version becomes a critic, whispering that you must be perfect, agreeable, productive, attractive, unflinching. She lashes out not to destroy others, but to punish the self. Calm in the face of internal pressure is often harder than calm in the face of others. The external world may shout, but the inner voice whispers with precision. To be like Medusa in this final form is to turn your gaze inward, not to petrify yourself, but to finally see clearly the illusions you've inherited. This is the deepest courage, to look at the self without flinching. Psychology calls this the inner critic, a composite of parental voices, societal expectations, and repeated shame. It often masquerades as motivation. You should have done better. You should be thinner. You should have said something. You should have stayed quiet. The endless shoulds are pressure in disguise. Calm begins by naming this voice, not to argue with it, but to separate it from your identity. You are not the critic. You are the one who hears the critic. This separation is transformative. It creates space between thought and self, between pressure and presence. The Stoics taught this when they distinguished between impressions and assent. You cannot control what thoughts arise, but you can decide whether to believe them. Calm is not the absence of critical thoughts, it is the refusal to identify with them. From this space, a new relationship with the self emerges. Self-compassion becomes an act of resistance. Medusa's myth has been retold through the lens of shame, punished for being violated, transformed for being feared, beheaded for being strong. Women inherit this legacy. Calm begins when you refuse to punish yourself for surviving. Self-compassion is not indulgence, it is the courage to say, I am allowed to be imperfect and still worthy. In psychological terms, this activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting the body from threat to safety. In mythological terms, it is the return of Medusa's gaze inward, no longer as a weapon but as a mirror. This mirror shows the parts of you that pressure tried to hide. Ambition, sensuality, rage, softness, these are not contradictions, they are dimensions. Calm accepts complexity. It does not demand that you choose between being strong and being sensitive, between being driven and being gentle. Medusa embodied all of these at once. The serpents are a metaphor for multiplicity. Each one moves differently, yet together they form a whole. In the same way, calm allows women to be multidimensional without apology. Pressure thrives on binary thinking, either you're assertive or submissive, emotional or rational, leader or nurturer. Calm breaks this binary by saying, I am all of it, and I will not be reduced. This integration reshapes how you respond to failure. Under pressure, failure feels catastrophic. It threatens identity. If I fail, I am worthless. Calm redefines failure as information. The Stoics treated every event as data for virtue. What does this teach me about courage, about patience, about humility? Medusa, constantly misunderstood, became a symbol of fear not because she failed, but because others could not tolerate her truth. Failure, in this sense, is often a reflection of others' limitations, not your own. Calm women understand that failure is inevitable in any meaningful life. They do not run from it, nor do they collapse beneath it. They meet it with the same gaze they offer success, steady, curious, intact. To live like this requires rituals. Calm does not arrive by accident. It is built through rhythm. One ritual is daily solitude. Not scrolling, not consuming, but simply sitting with the self. In silence, the nervous system resets. The body remembers it is not in danger. Another ritual is intentional affirmation, not the superficial kind, but statements rooted in experience. I survived that meeting without betraying myself. I set a boundary and kept it. I spoke softly and was still heard. These affirmations, repeated, become internal anchors. They are your serpents, whispering not fear but truth. Community is another ritual. Medusa was exiled, but her modern daughters do not need to be. Calm is not isolation, it is connection without performance. Women need spaces where calm is celebrated, not mistaken for disinterest. Circles of women who practice calm together create a counterculture to the pressure to be loud, pleasing, or perpetually productive. These communities remind each other that silence is not weakness, slowness is not failure, and stillness is not absence. Calm becomes a shared language, a collective resistance to the world's constant acceleration. In leadership, calm becomes magnetic. Women who embody unshakable presence under pressure influence without domination. Their teams trust them, not because they are loud, but because they are consistent. Calm leaders make decisions without panic. They admit uncertainty without collapsing. They speak clearly, not constantly. In a culture addicted to urgency, calm leadership feels like oxygen. It restores perspective. Medusa, if reimagined today, would be this kind of leader, feared only by those who manipulate, revered by those who seek truth. Her calm would not be passive, it would be directive. She would walk into the boardroom and say with her eyes alone, "There is no storm I cannot stand in." The final evolution of calm under pressure is joy. Not the manic joy of escape, but the quiet joy of being aligned. When you are no longer ruled by the need to please, prove, or perfect, life slows. You notice your breath, you savor your tea. You feel your feet on the ground. Calm creates room for joy because it removes the noise that drowns it. Medusa, in her solitude, may not have danced for others, but perhaps she danced for herself. Perhaps she laughed with her serpents. Perhaps she found joy not in approval but in presence. Women who reclaim calm also reclaim this joy. the joy of existing without explanation, of belonging to themselves fully. In the end, to be like Medusa is not to turn others to stone, it is to refuse to be turned to stone yourself. Pressure wants to harden you, to make you brittle, reactive, hollow. Calm softens you into resilience. It says, I bend, but I do not break. I feel, but I do not flee. I stand, but I do not shout. This is not the calm of denial. It is the calm of devotion to truth, to self, to wholeness. In this way, Medusa becomes not a monster but a model. Her serpents are not curses but crown. Her gaze is not threat but testament. And her calm, under every kind of pressure, is the legacy we inherit when we choose ourselves. Calm is not a trait reserved for the few. It is a practice, a discipline, a choice. To be like Medusa is to meet pressure not with panic or avoidance, but with steady presence, with mastery of self, with unwavering authority over your own mind. In every challenge, every critique, every expectation, the calm woman demonstrates that power lies not in reaction, but in reasoned response. She does not allow chaos to dictate her identity. She remains whole, sovereign, unshakable. The lessons of Medusa and the Stoics converge here. Control what is within your grasp, your thoughts, your emotions, your responses, and release what is not. Boundaries, reflection, solitude, and deliberate engagement form the architecture of calm. Each practice is a brick in the fortress of the mind. Women who cultivate this presence find that the storms of pressure no longer erode them. Instead, they become the eye around which the world turns. Calm is strength in its quietest form, resilience in its purest expression. To carry this forward, commit to daily practices of reflection, pause, and self-compassion. Embrace your emotions without surrender, hold your boundaries without guilt, and speak with presence without fear. Let the gaze of Medusa remind you, you are not defined by pressure, by judgment, or by expectation. You are defined by your calm, your clarity, your courage. In the unshakable stillness of your mind, you will find freedom, strength, and the quiet power to live fully as yourself.